I'm actually feeling extremely overwhelmed because this is the first time that I'm exploring and sharing and articulating my explorations in a group, and a group which is of all practitioners and stalwarts of process work. Yet I'm a little comforted कि अपने लोग ही हैं, so I'll get co-held and there will be a co-joining, and that's what I'm really looking forward to. Like with most of us, I think my journey also began with a feeling of emptiness, a dryness in the being, some amount of physical fatigue, emotional vulnerability, mentally not feeling integrated. Answers were sought, sources were searched. Fortunately for me, I reconnected to process work thanks to Shushanto, who's here with us today, my guide. And also at the same time, simultaneously, I got engaged with reading the scriptures and looking at the world from that angle. This paper and this research actually has had a very deep impact on me. And I think whatever I'm going to be sharing with you are my personal subjective experiences, both with the process work as well as the spiritual world. My initial questions were all revolving around all the existential questions, but actually, my quest began after completing my internship in Astha, process work internship in 2013, having worked with Shushanto, and at the same time, almost simultaneously, with a very chance encounter, I was introduced to the Gita group of Sri Aurobindo study group. I went out of curiosity, but I think within 2 sessions, there was almost like a force, such a strong pull, that the immersion became very deep. And my quest actually was to know, to understand what I know, and to be what I have understood. It's almost become a daily sadhana because, the thing of delving, reflecting, it's almost become something which is completely, there is a force, I think, I'm not sure what it is, but it kind of keeps pulling you. So it is every day that one looks at and one reflects. Setting the context very quickly, I think there has been a lot which has already been shared about what actually and how one would define. It's actually very difficult to define process work. But I have taken 2 very basic understandings, one from Dr. Punil Garg, which says that process is an ongoing recognition of unfolding reality of the self. The work, therefore, aims to keep the energy of the self alive and the vibrancy of the living processes. Shushanto has mentioned it as process work being a tripodal body of knowledge, philosophy, and praxis. And it aims to enhance the well-being of individuals and collectivity simultaneously. The underpinning of process work, if I have to put it very simply, is self-reflection and self-discovery. I think I'll go one step further. It is actually self-rediscovery. For me, spirituality is actually connecting and understanding the self within. It's also at the same time connecting with something much larger in the process of seeking personal authenticity and genuineness and wholeness. Spiritual practice, therefore, is something where one gets tuned, your mental and intellectual levels get tuned in to a higher frequency. Coming to this world of what it is, so I also went into exploration of journeying into the self. And the first question was, who am I? On the assertion, I said, I am the sum total of all my feelings and emotions. I'm also the amalgamation of all my roles, my identities, my being and becoming. I also understood why or how I am the way I am through the processes of introjections, culturalizations, internalizations. When I look at it from the negation, I'm actually not the 3 states of body, which is gross, causal, or subtle. I'm beyond the five sheaths. And I'm actually the witness of the three states of consciousness. Actually, then, if you look at the negation, I'm that which cannot be negated under any condition. And when we talk of conditions, I'm referring to the limitations of time, space, and objects. I'm also a combination of the manifest, that which is available for perception by the sense organs, that which is felt by the mind, and that which is understood by the intellect. On the unmanifest, I'm actually that which is not available for any of these instruments, but it is the feeler potential of the mind, the vitality behind the sense organs, and actually the illumination and the knowledge of the intellect. Giving a small example of the unmanifest, I think it has been already shared, but it's like a seed. One looks at it in a manifest form, it is a mere seed. And when you look at the unmanifest, it is actually the potentiality of it transforming into a huge tree. So therefore, what then is the self? The self is. It is that witness. It is that awareness. It is the knower of everything, the perceiver in everyone, and it is at all times. Yet, it is not the known, not the felt, and not the perceived. I think I'm struck with these two very powerful, it just kind of, pulls me, these two verses, which is Vasudev Sarvamiti, Vas, to reside, and that Dev is that illuminate self within us. Sarvamiti is that which is available to everybody. There's a very powerful shlok in the Gita, chapter 10, which talks about you yourself know yourself by yourself. And I think that, these two very, very powerful verses actually take me into such a reflective mood that I can just get into a meditation, but I think we have to move on. Another two set of very powerful shloks which actually changed my direction and pulled me into this studying the Gita much more deeply were the shloka from Dhyan Yoga, chapter 6, Gita 5 and 6, which talks about let the self raise itself and let not the self lower itself. For self is the self's best friend and also its worst enemy. The one which is next is, how is it? It's the monkey mind I think all of us talk about. The monkey mind can play games with us, rationalize, but it is also the source and power which can be used and deployed by us for our transformation. So therefore, we talk about self-awareness. Where does it come from? I think amongst all beings in the present, and I'm actually saying that human beings are the highest evolved yet. This can be actually attributed to our ability of having a rational intellect, the Vivek Buddhi as one says, the discriminating ability. This is actually also aligns us to rise above our basic animal instincts. It can empathize with the world and also do actions for the larger good. We are also, based on our discriminative ability, attach ourselves to a higher purpose. If we need to, the higher purpose also means that one has to detach for something lower to attach to something higher. And ultimately, and this is still something which is, these are questions which keep coming and staying with us, is also to free ourselves of feelings of limitations, hopelessness, helplessness, and incompleteness. Let's come to our theme of this conference, Prava. Very powerful construct. This balance between activity and tranquility, this rhythm, Gita calls it Samatvam Yoga or Yog Karmasu Kaushalam. Actually, this triad of thought, feeling, and action determines the flow and prava that every individual experiences in their being and becoming, which is in the inner, which gets manifested as action in the outside. Thought with knowledge, feeling with awareness results in an action. And that action is actually what we experience. The experience of the experience is through an action. And that actually is the whole drama of meaning making, choice taking, role taking, which can leave an individual either replenished or discharged. What I have done is I have tried to extend this concept to various different perspectives. I think it's extremely powerful, this thought, feeling, action triad. And I've looked at it from various perspectives, whether it is from process work or from whatever the teachings that I have gathered from Sri Aurobindo, yoga, chakra, macro, manifestation, and even the management jargon. It's very important here to understand the difference between the mind and the intellect. I think that was something which was very powerful for me. The mind is the seat for all thoughts, feelings, and emotions. And it actually directs action when it gets stimulation from the outer world. The mind has the capacity for volition, basically negating and dividing. Looking at it from the intellect part, intellect at an ordinary level has the ability to recognize objects, the concept of the world. It's able to compare, contrast, distinguish. But at a higher level, it's a very powerful tool which allows us to reflect and inquire. Inquire into the relationship between the part and the whole, between the good and the pleasant or convenient, between the self and the not self, between the ephemeral and the eternal. So I think past positive time, it's detailed in my paper, but I think I'll move on to something which is, therefore, what is this mind? The mind is actually what propels all our actions. Where there is a mind, there cannot be no action. Even no action, as one says, is an action. Actions, therefore, are generated by the mind, strengthened by the mind, and ultimately performed by the mind. So basically what we are saying is that every individual has a set of propensities, tendencies, nature, guna, that's how they are referred to, which propels the quality of that particular action. So action based on our tendencies are inevitable, except that one can consciously raise it to another level. Let's look at the self and the others now. Self exists in the ecosystem of the others. The currency here is, at a root, self and relationships look at harmony, yet they are governed by expectations and desire. And desires cause all the mental modifications and dualities, the me and the mine, I versus you. This question is parked. Probably I'd like to park it with you, Samba, since you asked to raise questions. If action is inevitable, can we perform action without doership or enjoyership? Is that possible? Not being able to integrate it because that's the process of living. I think which is something which is very, which has come to me. It's not completely it's in process. It's a framework of evolution, which I'd like to run by with all of you, and I'd definitely like some questions and thoughts on it. So when we look at the purpose of every person, it is to transform and to evolve and to grow. So there are realms of evolution. I have made them into 3 realms. They are distinct yet fluid. So the realm of inconscient inactivity, realm of conscient activity and movement, and the realm of superconscient activity and stillness. If you look at the field, it is of inaction, so there is inertness, there is ignorance. And the whole drama of our sansar, the world, gets played out in this realm. Humans, being in a state of evolution, have the possibility of transcending and moving to the realm of superconscient activity and stillness, which is actually without the doership. Here it is the ego fully in play. When we look at the compass, this is the place which is acted upon. Here we have the choice and the effort, either to switch or to transcend and move to something which is fully driven by the eternal. The mind plane, there is no mind plane. Here we are governed by mind and intellect, and therefore the whole drama of cause and effect And there is a higher mind where actually the mind ceases and therefore oneness is experienced. The here and now that we talk of process work actually is the space here. Transition dimensions, space, I would like to negotiate. So when we look at this dimension, I think space is a concept which actually creates distinctive individual division of physical. So when we look at this realm, which is of space and object, and then comes our world, which is time, space, and objects, this is the one which is constantly changing. I think when we talk about change as being the only constant, I think we are talking about this. But it also has limitations. Our mind works and processes information in very sequential, whereas when we move beyond, that's actually when we feel and experience the multiplicity and the simultaneity. Movement towards the conscious principle. Here, this is complete, but it is unaware. And it is also not kindled, there's no aspiration. Whereas the conscious congruence, there is a huge amount of awareness. There is also an awareness and an effort that is required, and yet it is not stable. Whereas when we look at this superconscious congruence, one talks about sthit prajna, complete stability, anchoring, establishment, that happens here. And the realization of all potentiality, which is in the nature, is actually moving from matter to life and becoming, and then moving to the being. So now we come to the existential dilemma. I'm with it, and I think all of us at some stage in different points are there, being completely established in the being, and then moving and performing through the becoming. The dilemma is that when the being, the Atma shrinks, the becoming expands, the I-ness happens, and vice versa. And the whole dilemma is this. But I think this is what we call Zindagi, isi ka to naam hai. This whole drama of how much and how do we hold our being and becoming together. My experience with process work has been a space to pause, to reflect, to recalibrate, and to make conscious action choices. My conclusion for the paper that actually, see, in a sense, both look at actually giving a very intimate, subjective experience to an individual. And that which is the knowable, the realizable, and the experienceable. Process work is an extremely authentic space for self-expression. And I found that it provides, and it works with thoughts, feelings, and emotion, and it provides extreme amount of emotional nourishment. That's the space where I actually own myself. Spirituality gives the whole macro picture of why things are the way they are. And I think that has been something which has been extremely powerful because it gives the whole big picture of why what happens to us happens. And the whole nature, I think the biggest understanding was what is this nature and the propensities that we are with and how did it play out. In a sense, therefore, I'm saying that I mean, if I have to look at it, both, they are playing off each other, feeding from each other. But I think there is a conscious, as process workers, there is a conscious need to integrate the two so that any individual who embarks on this journey experiences better, knows better, and integrates better. I'll shift from this because of time, and I'll move from my journey, which actually started from a very young age as being my only resource, to also understanding that all resources are within me. The underplaying is actually of something which is so deep. It's basically talking of love and oneness. And I think that is actually what the self is, the nature of the self is, and the relation of the self with the world is.